Well, good morning, everybody.
Wow.
It's been 2 years ago we've talked last time.
Is that 2 years already?
Right.
Wow.
And
I remember the last time I was here in Budapest, I said, and many people weren't sure about this at the time, and it's incredible to be here every time I speak, but I said here 2 years ago that Donald J. Trump will return as President of the United States of America, and I'm here to report back that yes, not only has he returned, he won the popular vote, he won 7 out of 7 of the swing states, he won the Electoral College, the Senate, and the House of Representatives, and survived 2 assassination attempts when he did so. So I think he's outperformed all of our wildest expectations.
Well done. And back 2 years ago, the main topic of the discussion was common sense.
Yes.
And as we see, common sense probably started to come back to the United States. It will be high time that it comes back in Europe, to Europe. But my idea for today's discussion was, and is a little bit different now.
Okay.
And that is, but common sense is bumping into it anyhow, so it's how you experience the walkway of governance actually unearthing, coming to the light. Your president, those who started to take positions in the administration, have
President Trump has
bumped into.
President Trump has common sense, and wokeness has nonsense.
That's right. But the thing is, we here in Hungary, in Europe, as a matter of fact, see that whenever a conservative right-wing government comes and starts talking common sense and start working for the people, they immediately start denying everything. So the name of the game is whatever we do, and this is the Hungarian experience for the past 15 years by now, they say no. And paraphrasing one famous phrase, their way and their approach to governance is not of the people, not by the people, and not for the people.
Ah, yes. Well, we had an issue, so I had the opportunity to speak with great leader, Prime Minister Orban, here just yesterday in an interview that will be released later today. And I asked him about this question because, as it turns out, we were not sure exactly who was the President of the United States the last 4 years, because we were told that it was Joe Biden, and it turns out that his brain was not quite capable all the time, and instead he was using this auto pen to sign his documents, and we're not entirely sure who was in control of the auto pen. So to take your phrase, and this classic phrase, and turn it around, instead of having the government of the people, by the people, and for the people, we had the government of the pen, by the pen, for the pen.
Very well. And the thing is that it sounds absurd, and I can tell you that for the past 15 years, coming to power in 2010, we bumped into seemingly absurd phenomenon, how the government was running, how it was conceived to be run, and how, in the name of democracy, they basically went around democracy and started to implement something completely different. What's your finding of the essence of the democratic way of governance and the NGOs, the so-called civil society behind it, which obviously, in brackets, has nothing to do with real civil society?
Well, this is the George Soros model of government, where when they say it's an open society, what they actually mean is that it's open for the bureaucrats and the plutocrats and the technocrats, and it is open to all manner of special interests other than the actual people of the nation itself, because it serves the NGOs, it serves the Soros level, it serves the bureaucracy level, the special interests, the corporate level, the multinationals, but it doesn't serve the people. And so when you have these governments, like the one that we just experienced in the United States for 4 years, this was not government of the people. This individual, Joe Biden, who I have a lot of questions about his initial election, by the way, which I don't think can be called legitimate in 2020. But that being said, even if, let's say he was the legitimate president, he was not running that office. That office was being run by his advisors, it was being run by his wife, it was being run by his son in many cases. So, of course, this raises many questions for democracy. Who is actually representing the people? Who has been elected by them? Who has been empowered by them? So sovereign rights of the leader should derive from the people in a democracy. This is the basic philosophy of a democratic government. However, if that sovereignty instead is given away to, say, courts, as we've seen in the United States, academia, unelected experts, unelected bureaucracy, well then you don't have a democracy at all anymore. What you have is an oligarchy. And an oligarchic system whereby the faces change at the top, but the actual power structure never changes. That's why when President Trump and the MAGA movement have returned to power now in the United States, the specific goal, not only of President Trump, but also of Elon Musk, of Bobby Kennedy, of so many others that have come, are targeting this power structure, which is actually below the surface. This is why we use the phrase deep state and some of these other ways to describe this, because that's actually who's in power. And I would argue that unfortunately this system of the pen, by the pen, for the pen isn't just happening in the United States, or was happening in the United States. We see this across Europe as well in many, not this country by the way, but in many countries in Western Europe, you see the exact same problem, where they change chancellors or they change prime ministers, but the policies don't change. They keep allowing for a war in Ukraine, which is unwinnable at this point. It was unwinnable from the start, to continue. They keep escalating the war towards nuclear confrontation with Russia, and they continue the mass importation of migrants from the third world, illegal migrants in many cases, economic migrants in others. And when you change the nature of the people, then you change the country itself. If you replace the people of Hungary, then it would no longer be Hungary. If you replace the people of Poland, it would no longer be Poland. If you replace the people of America, it would no longer be America. And yet, for those in power, this seems to be their specific goal.
Well, that's right. And from the other side, you would listen to the argument that this is called populism you are talking about. But we just heard a couple of good descriptions and outline what we think about the deep state. The Prime Minister is very outspoken, and we heard all the other lecturers actually yesterday and today about the effort to regain the autonomy of politics, and that is the policymaker who's been elected. The name of democracy is very simple. Decision comes and goes with those actually who've been elected. They bear the right, the mandate, and they bear responsibility. And that's what is missing in today's European world, as a matter of fact, as we see the bureaucracies overruling basically democratic decisions, calling their opponents who claim for democracy by all kinds of buzzwords. How do you think it's possible to deconstruct what's been built for the past couple of decades by now?
So in the United States, we're facing the same issue. In Europe, obviously, there's many issues as well. We don't have a European Union structure like most of Europe does. Now, the UK, of course, pulled out in the Brexit situation, and yet you notice, even though the people of the UK voted to leave the European Union, I don't think the leaders of the UK have actually listened to them, and so they still keep trying to make these secret deals to stay in many ways. And I certainly, by the way, support the effort of Nigel Farage, who will be the next Prime Minister of the UK, in order to complete the Brexit situation and sever that. In the United States, it's a complicated process, but it's simple. The issue is that the sovereign power of the United States, which should be installed in the elected representatives. So the people have chosen the president, the people have chosen the House, the Senate, that's our Congress, and then those then go and appoint the judges. The problem is that sovereignty has essentially leaked out, like a boat with a leak in it. And so the sovereignty has leaked into these other institutions, NGOs, universities, media corporations, which are receiving taxpayer dollars. And so this tax money, which is flowing, yes, from Soros to some extent, but the major goal of what he does is to bring taxpayer dollars to these institutions, which then become the lifeblood of what I call the enemies of the Republic, the enemies of a small r Republican government. And so what we must do then is to sever this link, sever it and cut it off. And you're seeing that now with President Trump in his direct efforts against the Ivy League universities, against Harvard University, banning foreign students because this is a major source of income for them. But all federal dollars that are going to these engines of the in philosophical terms, you would call it anti-democratic institutions. This link must be severed. And this is why you see so much anger from them when he goes after this. Actually, there were some issues, some of the woke issues, trans issue. You notice there was not much response when Trump cut the trans programs. They were not upset about this. Why? They're more upset about the money. If you can follow the money and sever this connection, cut off all of it from them, then you can really, really break away their power structure. And on the other side of that, in the United States, we have the issue of these district judges have gone completely radical, and their decisions to countermand the executive, this is a complete abrogation of their constitutional duties. They are stepping on the rights of the executive. If we have an executive under our system, he's not a monarch, but he is an executive, and he's not a monarch yet at least, and their funding should also be cut.
The United States has long-standing and very strict laws on transparency, especially with a special regard to money coming from abroad.
Yes.
And you see the voices, the screams coming out of Hungarian politics and European politics when the Hungarian government and the Hungarian parliament is trying to make political money, who is talking, transparent. You know, by Hungarian law, it's strictly forbidden for political parties to receive any kind of foreign money, full stop. When we started to introduce new measures, which is requiring the very same actually from so-called civil society and anyone who's dealing with public affairs, you see this outcry. So one element is that you have to have stricter rules and transparency rules installed on the ground, and very obviously it's an institutional process. But you as an experienced influencer and user of the social media, is it a way out of this kind of deadlock or fading kind of democracy that you talk to the people directly, and that is through social media?
Well, it is through social media, and social media has been incredible, and I'm very supportive of everything that Elon Musk has done to free speech across the internet through his purchase of X. You mentioned about the money, the foreign money that goes from NGOs, the civil society programs. If you have a civil society program in your country, you must shut it down immediately. You must shut it down, you must ban it, you must take all of its assets and completely dissolve it, because this exists only to undermine the will of the people, to undermine governments, and to serve this transnational, transglobal agenda. These are the greatest threats to actual democracy. In our nation, we see this. They support illegal aliens. They support the flow of illegal migrants across our southern border. They support the upending of the rule of law throughout our states. If you remove these civil society programs, what you're doing is you're taking away their ability to fund these revolutionary programs. And what we're actually seeing with these civil society programs, they have the nicest names in the world, but what they are, in essence, are a form of neo-Marxism to serve as a way to destabilize countries, destabilize the rule of law, and agitate for an irregular form of revolutionary governance.
Very well. As always, it's very easy to talk to you and with you about these issues because we are quite straightforward. What do you suggest is going to be the agenda for the upcoming, say, year in the United States? We already see the first obstacles emerging or trying to emerge in face of the president's efforts. And what's your estimation of European democracy for the upcoming months?
Well, I certainly hope that the populist nationalist revolution that has been headed by President Trump in the United States, you see populist nationalists in Poland, and of course the great leadership of Viktor Orban. I hope that it spreads across all of Europe, whether it's AfD in Germany, whether it's Nigel Farage in the UK, and so many, Robert Fico in Slovakia, who came and spoke here just yesterday. I hope and pray that the people's parties are able to take back national sovereignty, national identity, and remind the people of Europe of the essential truth of our people that Jesus Christ is our King and that God must return to the very center of our way of life.
Amen. Thank you. As always, it's been a pleasure talking to John Posobiec, and I hope we'll be able to meet next year.
Of course.
You take care. Thank you for being with us. You have a great day.